Good morning, John. It's the day after Halloween. I don't like scary things very much, but I did recently go see the movie Gravity, which was terrifying. I went to see it with Henry from Minute Physics and Derek from Veritasium, and yes, for a brief period after the movie, we did discuss how it violated the laws of physics a couple times. Kind of annoying. Talked about that on SciShow. You can go watch it. But nevertheless, obviously, very great movie, and we spent more time talking about the actual terrifying real-life space disasters that many astronauts and cosmonauts have gone through. Not made up, not fictional, and in the spirit of Halloween, let's talk about the real terrifyingness of space. For example, we all know that Neil Armstrong was a badass, but did you know that in 1966 he was piloting Gemini 8, which got a maneuvering thruster stuck on and it started to spin and spin and spin faster and faster. They were within seconds of passing out because of the extreme G-forces. The thing was spinning at more than 1 rotation per second when Neil Armstrong managed to get it under control because he's amazing. Before that, in 1965, Alexei Leonov was the first person to ever do a spacewalk in an outer space suit. However, when he went to get back in the capsule, he couldn't fit. His spacesuit had inflated too much. Oh, well, I guess I'll just never go home. Instead, what he did is he vented his spacesuit into space until he shrunk enough. He was suffering from the bends in the cramped capsule, and so it took a little longer than they thought to get back into the atmosphere, so they landed way off course in a freezing cold forest. They opened it up and found that they were pretty much surrounded by wolves, so they just stayed in the capsule until somebody came and rescued them. Soyuz 5 was sent back for re-entry with a single cosmonaut inside, Boris Volynov. The service module, which was supposed to detach, didn't detach, and so the thing went into the atmosphere nose first, with the hatch slowly burning through. Luckily, the service module burned away, and it righted itself. What? But then, the parachute didn't deploy correctly, and neither did the landing rockets fire, so he landed so hard that he broke his teeth. Also, no one knew where he was, so he got out and walked several kilometers in negative 36 degrees Fahrenheit to a peasant's house to say, hey, I'm a cosmonaut, my teeth are broken, can I sleep here? The Russian space program, man, wow. Even scarier, Soyuz 18A, named 18A, by the way, because they only name successful missions in Russia. So they just call it 18A, because it doesn't quite count as a mission. Because when it was taking off, a separation failure caused the rocket to slowly turn and point itself toward the ground. The cosmonauts inside the capsule experienced G-forces of 21 Gs, which is like 3 Gs away from lethal. Luckily, the capsule figured out something was wrong, the abort sequence started, and it flipped off. Despite the fact that it was going toward the ground extremely quickly, the parachutes actually held. However, then it landed on the side of a snowy mountain, and then slowly began to roll down the mountain toward a 400-foot cliff. It stopped like 20 feet away because its parachute, again, saved them by getting tangled in vegetation. And it continues. Soyuz 23 crashed through the surface of a frozen lake, and the cosmonauts had to stay down there for 9 hours before they got rescued in the bottom of a lake. Terrifying. Now, Apollo 13, very well-known story, a harrowing experience, but did you know that Apollo 12 also almost ended in disaster when it was struck by lightning twice during launch? Pretty much everything you could think of going wrong has gone wrong in space. Fires in space, spacecraft being depressurized, spacesuits being depressurized. There was a guy who poked a hole in his hand, but he survived too. The most recent terrifying near miss was when Luca Parmitano's spacesuit malfunctioned and started dumping water that he was supposed to be drinking into his helmet, filling up his helmet with water in space. I don't want to drown in space! Scarier than any ghost story you're gonna hear on Halloween. Thanks everyone for submitting your nerdy pumpkins to the Nerd Fighter Pumpkin Carving Contest, where you can win a book from my shelf inscribed to you by me. Please now go and look at all of the ones that have been submitted and vote on your favorites. In a week, we will tally up the most voted on ones, and they will get the prizes. John, thanks for sharing this week, and I'll see you on Tuesday. Medically speaking, starvation occurs when a body doesn't get enough calories and nutrients.